Hey, it's Matt Moscona. You found it, your home for all the latest news and conversation around your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. And this channel is powered by BetUS. Up to a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits, up to $2,000. It's all at BetUS. The link is in the description on this video. Who dat?
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Busy day in and around the NFL. Of course, Tuesday were roster cuts. Wednesday is when we saw the Saints add to their 53-man roster. Add to their practice squad. And they actually added another player via a trade. Adam Schefter broke this news just before we were going on air that Washington, the Commanders, were sending defensive tackle John Ridgeway III to the New Orleans Saints. Schefter came back with a clarification or an update with the compensation. So the Saints sent a 6th-round pick to Washington for John Ridgeway and a 7th-round pick. So pick swap and a player. So the Saints send a 6. They get John Ridgeway and a 7. I'll give you a little background on John Ridgeway first, tell you how I think this might work for New Orleans, how he may factor in here. So John Ridgeway played 4 seasons at Illinois State, and then his final season of college eligibility, he transferred to Arkansas, and that was in 2021. So he played for the Razorbacks. On that team, if you remember, that was 21 was the team that, it was Ed Ogeron as a lame duck coach, and Arkansas came in and played that morning game that went to overtime, and Arkansas beat LSU in overtime. That was the game when Max Johnson started it, and then Nussmeier came in relief, and I think LSU, maybe they lost 16-13 or 13-10, something like that. In overtime. It was a miserable game. But anyway, when you look at Ridgeway, he was a guy that Dallas took in the 5th round of the 2022 draft. So he was a 5th-round pick, and he got waived. Like, he didn't even make the Dallas roster the year they took him in round 5. Like, just for some context, like, if you look at the Saints' all-time draft picks, and you look at 5th-round guys, like, Jordan Howden was a 5th-round guy. You expect to count on 5th-round draft picks. This year, Spencer Rattler and Bub Means were 5th-round picks. DeMarco Jackson, who's had some injury issues but was a 5th-round guy. There have been misses. Natrell Jamerson was a 5. Davis Tull, Tyler Davis, and Damian Swan were all 5s. Vinny Cinceri was a 5. Ronald Powell was a 5. Corey White was a 5. So there's some goods. Matt Tennant was a 5. That was a total bust. They drafted him out of Boston College to be the team's starting center, and it never worked. Thomas Morstead was a 5. But Carl Nix was a 5. So a lot of times you expect 5th-round picks to hit. I mean, more often than not for the Saints, they have. They've become players that make the team and contribute. So this was a guy that the year he was drafted by Dallas got waived. The Commanders picked him up, and he's been there ever since, and he's actually been a contributing player. Last year, 2023, John Ridgeway played in 31% of the Commanders' defensive snaps and in 21% of their special team snaps. So here you're talking about a guy that has been a contributor for the Washington Commanders at the NFL level. And I guess I look at it as a little bit odd because, if we were going to look at the Saints coming out of camp and with this 53-man roster, one spot where it felt like they were solidified was at defensive tackle. Now, again, the caveat is Khalen Saunders, and it feels like that's probably what this is, that this was a move to add a guy that's been a contributing player, a Sunday player, at a spot where you're not going to have Khalen Saunders for at least 2 weeks. But would you really, I guess this is the question I would ask. Like, would you give up a draft pick? Like, would you give up draft capital for 2 weeks? Does that make sense? So, like, if Saunders misses the first 2 weeks, and it looks like that's with that strain, I think it was calf strain that they said, that's what it would be. If you're going to miss Khalen Saunders for 2 weeks, would you really give up a draft pick to bring in the defensive tackle that's going to help you for 2 weeks? That's maybe the sort of perplexing part about it, to give up the asset for just such a short period of time. If you told me Saunders was going to miss half the season or was out for the year and you needed to add somebody who could be a key part of your rotation, okay, but you've got BREC, who looked really good in camp. Looks like he's ready to take that next step in year 2. You've got Nathan Shepard, of course, you brought in last year. And then you got a couple of young guys. I mean, Christian Boyd, who you drafted this year out of Northern Iowa, made the team, as did Kendall Vickers. So I understand needing another body. A little surprised, though, quite honestly, that if that's the thought, that you're bringing in John Ridgeway because Khalen Saunders' injury. A little surprised just because it's such a short-term deal that you give up an asset for it. But, again, it was a pick swap and the player. So you're giving up your you're giving up your 6 this year, but you're getting Washington's 7 and the player. So you recoup a pick. It's a pick for a pick, but you get the player as well. So maybe that's what they're thinking. But nonetheless, this feels like an answer to the Khalen Saunders injury, just a short-term deal. We'll get back to the video in just a quick second. Thanks so much for watching. Love telling you about our friends at BetUS. Great partner here on AFR Saints all football season long. They still got that great deal for you. Again, 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits, up to $2,000. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that? Y'all, we're creeping closer to week 1. You want to bet Saints-Panthers? Great opportunity to do it right now. Check out BetUS. Easy. All you do is you go to the football tab, hit the drop down, NFL odds week 1. There's Ravens and Chiefs. How about that? Champs are a 3-point home favorite. No surprise there. But you go to that first football Sunday, there it is. Panthers and Saints. Who dat's in the Dome? 3.5-point favorite. Total in that game is 40. You think there'll be more points? You can bet on it easily with a couple of taps right there at BetUS. And remember, a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits, up to $2,000. It's available right now at BetUS for our viewers here on AFR Saints. So we'll get back to the video. Be sure to support our great sponsor in BetUS this football season. Now, enjoy the rest of the video. Dennis Allen did meet with reporters as well on Tuesday and talked about a lot that we were interested in, and namely, when they went through this cut down process, what really their focus was as a team.
There's a lot of things that go into making roster decisions and roster management and that type of stuff. And so I do know that, look, there was a number of young players that made the team. There's a number of undrafted free agent players that are on, the initial 53-man roster. So I think we did kind of as we normally do. We go through the, analyzing the roster and make the decision on what we think is the right 53 for our team.
The Saints are undeniably a younger football team. The average age of the Saints roster this year is 26.3 years. That is a pretty significant adjustment from a season ago when the Saints were one of the oldest rosters in the NFL in 2023. They were nearly 28 years old on average, so that's gone way, way down here this year. And then, look, of course, a big part of that is the fact that you've got rookies like Taliesin Fuanga and Kool-Aid McKinstry, and then the undrafted guys, the 4 undrafted rookie free agents that they kept. The average age of your defensive roster is 26.4 years. The average age of your special teams is 27.6. The average age of the offense is 26.3, and the overall age, I flipped that, is 26.7. So you got younger on average by more than a full year this season. I don't know if it was intentional, but you did get younger on this roster. Now we'll see if some of these guys can mature physically and emotionally as professionals and maybe be something to build on for the Saints' future. But again, the news today, they've finalized the practice squad, and they added John Ridgeway, made a trade for John Ridgeway, a defensive lineman from the Washington Commanders. Thanks so much for watching the video. Remember, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And our channel is powered by BetUS. 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits, up to $2,000. All the info and the link in the description below.